Well, hello, I'm back. And as you can see, I'm solo again this week. Connie's still struggling with the symptoms of shingles, which it's really taken it out of her. So, yeah, we have our fingers crossed. This is going to turn around real quick. But what I thought I'd talk with you about today is emotional reactions. And so often, people that we work with who tend to have cravings for food. Often those cravings come up when there's an emotional reaction or the aftermath of an emotional reaction where we've been upset. What I mean by an emotional reaction is simply being upset. We can feel hurt or we can feel angry or frustrated. It can be, as subtle as just being impatient or an annoyance. Sometimes I find I'll just say something harsh and I hear the tone of my voice and I'm kind of surprised. It's like, oh, so it can be real subtle too. But I thought we would look at kind of how emotional reactions occur so that we can maybe kind of nip them in the bud and not let them get so full blown as they can and then have us feeling upset for some time and looking for some relief, maybe going to food or who knows what. But this was one of the things that made such a significant difference in my life when we came across this understanding, what was it, 2017, 8 years ago. And I had trouble with handling emotional reactions. If I got angry or really felt upset, I had kind of learned it's not appropriate to express it. So then I've got to stuff it. And I've got these thoughts going on like there's something wrong with me. I shouldn't get upset. I should be stable. I should be, I should have it together. Shouldn't let things upset me. And I'd just kind of shove it under the rug. I'd try to suppress it as much as I could. But that didn't work so well because then sometimes a little thing would come up, just an innocent conversation or something, and I would hear maybe a tone of voice that would start to, bring up some reaction, and then all this suppressed emotion would come out sideways, and it was so inappropriate. And it's like, oh, this isn't working, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't understand the whole process of emotional reactions. So what it looks like to me now is that emotional reactions, they're a normal part of the human experience. And these strong emotions really have their place in our lives in the right context. So like anger, which I felt was so wrong, and it seemed like, well, any context. But if I look at it now, anger is a really good response mechanism if we're really being threatened, because in our anger, we really, the whole body goes into this fight survival mode, and we get adrenaline and cortisol and all these things that are going to actually give us more energy and focus and what we need to do to survive. So all the emotions have a place in our lives. But in today's world, we don't have so many survival issues. We don't live in a world where we're exposed to a lot of wild animals, say, where we have to really be aware of where we sleep at night and where we have our food and all that kind of thing to compete with the wild world. So the irony is that as we've evolved and created so much safety in our lives, our brain hasn't stayed up with it. So we can take something like a tone of voice and it can, can look like to me like they're telling me that there's something wrong with me. And my brain then interprets that as I've got to defend myself. This isn't right. And then I can kind of see this is a little out of proportion and I feel like I should just stuff it. It's very confusing. So, what I've begun to see is that if I start to get upset, almost all the time, that upset isn't necessarily the situation that I'm in. See, it used to look like the world, in my experience, occurred outside in, that it was the tone of voice that made me feel this way, or it was getting cut off in traffic that made me feel this way. So then I had to try and change something in the world around me, and go into fight or flight. That's the thing. If I'm being attacked by an animal, I've got to fight it off. I've got to do something about the circumstance. But a tone of voice, probably a little exaggerated. So what I see now is that understanding that life, my experience of life, works inside out. That is, what I'm feeling is a reflection of what I'm thinking. So if somebody or something is attacking me, then I need to go into fight or flight. I'm interpreting that correctly, but if somebody is raising their voice or criticizing me, that isn't the same kind of threat. That doesn't require an angry, defensive response. So, what I've found so helpful in understanding that my experience of life works inside out, that if I have a strong emotional reaction, it's not the circumstance. So, I don't need to go into attack mode or defense mode or that. It's actually become like an alarm clock or a little wake up call. I set an alarm in the morning because I have to get up earlier than usual. So I set an alarm and the alarm goes up and it wakes me up. It's supposed to. That's good news. And it's interesting how I can see now my strong emotional responses are sometimes like an alarm clock that's waking me up to the fact that I'm interpreting the situation inaccurately. I'm thinking that this tone of voice means that I have to defend myself, that there's a real threat in my life. And so it's just made all the difference. And it takes some time. Initially I would still get reactive and I'd raise my voice and I'd try and change the circumstance. But afterwards, sometimes it'd take a couple of hours. I would see what had happened and I go, oh, it was actually inside out. And I was reacting as though life is outside in. And I would be able to see what was really going on. Um, like if somebody used a certain tone of voice that I reacted to. In reflection, I could see, oh, well, they used that tone of voice for whatever reason. That was their experience. Their experience was, directing them to use that tone of voice. And there was no threat there. And what I can see often is how that communication, instead of it being a threat, was actually kind of an opportunity to connect with them and either kind of de-escalate what was going on for them or to, yeah, just be that kind of hold that space that's not reactive, because what I've found, Connie is so good about not reacting. She hasn't reacted to me for years. So when I start to react and she doesn't react back, it kind of leaves me just to look at what am I doing? When one party isn't pushing back, there's not much for me to push on. So she goes away and I kind of fall over on my face. I kind of see what I'm doing. It's kind of silly. But anyway, I have over time now been able to shorten that time span between when the alarm clock goes off, when I get irritated, when I have a strong emotional reaction, and when I wake up to look at, is this situation a real situation I need to get upset about and really defend myself or argue about or fight back in some way? Most of the time I see it isn't, and that is so refreshing, it's so freeing that now this response comes up like a little bit of anger, but it's just a small wave. And that wave then is a wake-up call instead of a call to action, which then, if I'm going to go into action mode, my mind starts looking for all kinds of ways to defend myself and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So yeah, this seeing that life works inside out and that I'm always feeling my thinking. I'm not feeling what's happening in the world. I'm feeling what I'm thinking about what's happening in my world. And that has just allowed me to have so much more peace and ease in my life. And I communicate a lot better. And of course, our relationship is a heck of a lot better. So I just wanted to share that with you. It's kind of like what I see now is there's that old story about the snake and the string, or a snake and a rope, and it's actually happened to me once in New Mexico. How if it's kind of a dimly lit room or night or something like that, and we see something on the ground, and if we live in a world like we did in New Mexico with rattlesnakes and some danger like that, we can see a rope and we get really excited. It's like, oh my gosh, and we should react. That's an appropriate reaction. But if we can turn the light on and see, oh, it's just a rope, which is what happened in the barn one night. It's like I've completely freaked out, backing up. I turn the light on, it's a rope. And we settle right down. We see the truth of the situation. So now when I start to get that little bump of reaction, I pause to turn the light on and take a better look and see what's really true in this situation. Am I being threatened in some way? And just like when I saw that rope, my whole body starts to settle down. And I can start to respond to the situation instead of react to it in a really beneficial and productive way. So just wanted to share that about emotional reactions, because if we can lower the stress load in our lives by understanding how our experience is inside out instead of outside in, then I don't have that carryover to where if I was really upset, sometimes I would look for something to eat to try to feel better. Because food, with the dopamine hit, we feel different, but it's not a healthy way to deal with our emotions. If I can see how my emotion is being generated in an improper way, then I can start to decouple that whole reactive cycle. And yeah, like I said, it's made such a difference in my life and my relationships, and yeah, it's good. So I wanted to share that with you today. And the recipe that we have this week is a mango rice salad bowl. So this is kind of a play on Buddha bowls. We like Buddha bowls, which is kind of combining rice and beans and some greens and some veggie. And so this has a mango, beans, grain, lettuce, some bell pepper, whatever you really want. But it has an avocado dressing that we put together that goes with it. So it's uh, it's really delicious. And you can put it together like a Buddha bowl, where all the ingredients are separate and then you put the dressing on top or on the side. But we also like it as a salad. And Connie will have it like on a bed of lettuce, and she'll put, so first she'll do it on a bed of lettuce, but then we combine all of the ingredients, the rice, the beans, the veg, and the dressing, and mix it up kind of like a potato salad, and then put that on the bed of lettuce for Connie. And what I really like to do is I like to make lettuce wraps out of it. So if our lettuce is a butter lettuce or a leaf lettuce, romaine lettuce that has a nice full leaf, I can put some of this potato salad like mango rice salad in and roll it up into a lettuce wrap. And that's the way I enjoy it. So lots of variations and it's really tasty. So give it a go. And thanks for joining us again.